Not doing this one simple thing in your career will make you lose up to 50% of your lifetime earnings.
You're broke! You're fucking poor!
In this video, we're gonna go over what this simple thing is, why it's holding back your earning potential, as well as limiting even your interpersonal growth, such as leadership skills. So what is it that is holding you back? Today, we're gonna be talking about job hopping. I actually graduated as a mechanical engineer back in 2018, and after a year of working in aerospace manufacturing and robotics, I switched to software engineering and went into tech. So I've been a software engineer for almost 6 years now, and I'm making about almost $200,000 a year. The reason why I am so confident in making this video, and I have stats to back it up, is that I kind of lived this job hopping life myself in my early career. I went from pretty big pay bumps, initially starting off at 60K as a software engineer, then going to 90K, then 130K, and now around $200,000. It's crazy because when I worked at my first initial job at that manufacturing plant, a lot of individuals worked at that same company for a lot of their adult lifetime. I saw people celebrating their 15, 20 year, even 30 year anniversaries, but little did they know that was limiting significantly their earning potential. So today we're gonna talk about the benefits of job hopping and why I recommend it, especially in your early career. So first off, what is job hopping? To me, job hopping is just switching jobs every couple of years. Usually I like to keep that timeline between maybe 2 to 3 years, but you see people doing it as little as, 9 months to even like a year and a half. So first off, let's get into the benefits of job hopping. So one benefit of job hopping is that you get much larger pay bumps than if you were to just get promoted and work really hard at your company. And this happens for a couple of reasons. Number one, your company needs to see a proven track record before they actually promote you. And so you need to be at least above average for at least 1 to 2 years before they really know that you're the man and will then promote you. Not only that, when they do promote you, that pay bump will not be comparable to if you were to job hop. So for example, if you're an engineer one at some software company and you're making 100K, that company will most likely not bump your pay to 150K. Maybe they'll bump it like 20%, 25% maybe, and you'll be making 125K, but it's pretty rare for a company to bump your pay by 50% just for a promotion. So compare that to job hopping, where if you're successful in completing the interview process and showing that you're a really strong engineer, you kind of get to dictate your own terms and you get to negotiate for yourself and ask for a much higher pay bump than what you'd be getting at your previous job. And this is where you see the difference in that earning potential, where job hoppers' compensation kind of look like a stepwise function, whereas a person that works at the same company is also gonna have a stepwise function, but the stepwise function is gonna be a lot smaller, as well as the steps will be wider apart. Another thing that happens when you job hop is that you have to hone your skills if you do want to get several offers from another company. So I can only speak for software engineers because I've been in the industry, but you need to know algorithms like the back of your hand, and you need to be expanding your skill set from your normal job responsibilities in order to get that higher pay and possibly an increase in job title. Because you need to learn so much more on top of your normal 9 to 5, your technical skill set increases with that. It will also give you a clear roadmap on what you need to improve with your technical skills. So again, as a software engineer, a lot of the technicals you'll need to be strong in data structures and algorithms, system design, as well as being decent in interpersonal skills and leadership. So that gives you a clear roadmap on what exactly you need to work on. And the fact that there are websites such as LeetCode and Algo Expert, that shows you that there is a clear roadmap in getting those job offers. I feel like your technical skill set improves dramatically when you do interview because the table stakes are so high. You're going to be taking interviews very seriously. It's not a joking matter, and because there's such a heavy emphasis on performing well, you take that study session a lot more serious, and therefore you learn a lot more in a shorter period of time. I remember when I was interviewing for my second engineering job, and I was so technically inept, and because there was such a big technical gap for these engineering 2 positions where I was applying to versus my technical skill set at that time, I would study so much harder every single day, doing LeetCode and trying to get better over time. Another benefit of job hopping is simply getting used to the interviewing system. So the interviewing system is very particular, and honestly, you need to know the game to play it well. You need to know like what exactly you should expect for each round and how to pass it with flying colors. And when you get a lot of reps in these interviews, you kind of know what the typical, interpersonal questions are going to be asked, what technical questions are going to be asked, and eventually you'll know what exactly to expect when you take your next interview. And so if you do not have interviews every 2-3 years, you'll kind of forget this process and it's going to take a while. There will be a ramp up period for you to kind of get a grasp on how interviews work. Again, I can only speak for software engineering folks, but as a software engineer, your day-to-day work is probably not inverting a binary tree or doing these crazy algorithmic problems. So that's definitely another benefit of interviewing regularly and being on top of the interviewing game. So now that I laid out the benefits of job hopping, I wanted to give out some job applying tips. Hopefully if you are in the interviewing process, you can use some of these tips. They're not super crazy, but hopefully this helps. So number one, the first thing I recommend people to do is to make sure they're not overqualified for the job they're applying to. You actually want to be slightly underqualified. It's totally okay not to hit every single qualification that a job asks for. A lot of time that company is, morphing the perfect individual, but there is no perfect individual for that job role. So if you meet 50% of the requirements, I recommend to apply every single time. I mean, heck, even if you hit 25% of the requirements, you can still apply. It doesn't really hurt. It takes a couple seconds out of your day. Let the employer judge if you're qualified or not. Don't kind of discount yourself first. You never know. If you're scared of rejection in the first place, that's a separate problem you need to work on separately. But again, if you are even a little bit qualified, I'd still recommend to apply to the job. Number two is to continue to learn on the side, but learn deep instead of wide. I think this is especially useful for kind of tech interviews, especially system design. It's extremely hard in a system design interview if you only know a wide breadth of knowledge, but you don't know how to talk about it intimately or like very deeply. The interview will ask you these deep, complex questions. You don't know certain things at a fundamental level. You're just gonna be flustered with the system design, and the interviewer will definitely know that. I actually think that going deep rather than wide is probably more important for senior kind of software engineer roles rather than junior or mid-level. I think junior or mid-level, they don't expect you to be as technical. So the bar is definitely a lot lower for that deep technical knowledge, but I would recommend you learn anyways, as you will need those skills later down the line in your career. A third tip is more of a cliche tip, but I really believe in it. It's essentially to communicate effectively. This is really hard for me as I'm kind of a visual / even like spatial learner. And so when I want to explain something technically, it's quite hard for me to explain that through words. I mean, even talking to this camera, a lot of times I struggle to translate my ideas into words. I'm still working on this and it's definitely not super easy, but any role you have, you need to communicate clearly and effectively. I don't think you need to know all the jargon terms, but you need to know, some of the basics. To bring that back into software engineering terms, if you're in a technical interview and are doing some algorithm problems, you need to explain clearly to your interviewer your exact thought process and approach to the problem. Again, I only say this because I definitely need work on this. I can solve an algorithm problem fine, but it's the explaining part that is my issue. And sometimes when I explain it through the words, I can't even think on the problem itself. And I start getting into this death spiral loop. So that's a recommendation from my standpoint. Lastly, I know this video is slightly controversial and some people are heavily against job hopping. One thing I'd say is that at your current job, you should be at least meets expectation or somewhere in between meets and exceeds expectation. If you are to job hop, that current role is your safety net and you should still be a really solid employee. And what I mean by a good employee is that number one, you should be taking ownership of projects and having some type of personal responsibility. Number two, you should be keeping your manager or your boss happy and should able to work independently and take some initiative. And you should be contributing to the company, either constantly improving the code base somehow or adding new features. You shouldn't be job hopping if your day-to-day job is suffering from that. That is not sustainable and you'll just be job hopping for your entire life. I would definitely not recommend anybody to job hop before maybe a year and a half at staying at a new place. If you consistently do it, it does become a red flag, especially if you do it for multiple years in a row. That is my personal opinion. You can take that with a grain of salt or not. But at the end of the day, I've actually found a place that I really enjoy working at. You know, I've been at my current company for 2.5 years now, and there hasn't been an itch at all to job hop to another place. Now that I've been at my place for 2.5 years now, I should, however, just kind of apply to a couple places just to keep my skills relevant. I haven't been practicing algos at all, so I need to definitely brush that up. But keep your options open. You never know what's going to land in your lap. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a thing or two about switching jobs every 2-3 years. At the end of the day, the theme is to constantly be learning and improving yourself. Good luck with your career. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below, and hope you have a good one. Bye.